let us meet the crew and cast of Last of Us. Executive producer, Carolyn Strauss. The co-creator of the original video game and the co-creator of this very show, Neil Druckmann. The other co-creator, Craig Mazin. I don't know if she blew you away, but she blew me away in Game of Thrones, our own Bella Ramsey. Okay, so I love this. A fashion outlet recently referred to him as heading his own school of how to dress like an internet zaddy. Would you like to know who I'm talking about? Pedro, please come out.
He's in the bathroom.
What?
He's in the bathroom.
Oh, he's in the bathroom.
That's Pedro.
And there's Pedro. Give it up to Pedro.
Woo!
Where is everybody?
Come here, come here.
Come back. Terrible.
It's got your name on it and everything.
You missed that. Okay, I'm going to do it again, and you got to give him just wait till you see what he's wearing. Okay. He plays Tommy Miller. Say hello to Gabriel Luna. Yeah. Is Pedro there? Is Pedro there now? Pedro, yay! Look at what he's wearing. Look at him.
Did I really show up late? Because I was getting a drink?
He just woke up, clearly.
That's embarrassing. Hi! Amazing.
All right, we don't have much time, and we have a lot to cover. So I was hoping we could start off with a quick yes-no session. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I want you to raise your hand for yes, keep it down for no, and Neil, I need you to stay out of this for obvious reasons. Okay, the first question, before any of this started, had you heard of the Last of Us video game?
You're
You have to
fired.
play too. Oh, so. Okay. Okay.
What do you mean?
Before any of this started, before you even got this job, had you
Use your microphone.
microphone?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Such a great insight into how this whole show went.
I did not raise
The
my
Last
hand.
of Us panel?
I hadn't heard of it.
Okay. And then, any of you, had you ever played a video game?
Any video game?
Any video game?
You had?
Any video game?
Yeah.
Any video game?
game?
Just
Oh,
pack.
Any, ever.
Any.
Any video?
Just like Wii Sports count?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like-
video game.
Mrs. Pac-Man?
Yeah.
That's what mine was Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Okay. And then before this, had you ever spent a full weekend in the basement on a headset with other people while playing a video game?
Does it have to be a basement? Is it ground floor okay? Just like
It
the
could
first
be anywhere. Like, oh, you did that. Oh, you did that,
Of
Gabriel.
course. Yes, of course.
All right. Okay, good. All right, so okay, now we know where we stand. All right, I'm going to start with you guys. Can you give us the origin story? And please, Carolyn, jump in here too. How did this all begin? What jumped from video to great show?
Oh, it started with Shannon Woodward, who plays Dina in the second game. And she's a mutual friend of mine and Craig's. And she thought we would make good friends, so she introduced us to each other.
Hold on a second. She tried to get Neil to call me back for like a year. And he would not call me. So I was jilted for a year, just trying to be his friend.
Look, I'm an introvert. It was hard. But then I saw the show Chernobyl. And it was pretty incredible. And I'm like, wait, that's the same guy that emailed me a year ago. I should probably have lunch with him so I could just gush about the show. And really, that was the only intent, was to meet Craig and gush about the show. And then we met for lunch outside of Naughty Dog, and we're just chatting for a while. I'm just gushing about Chernobyl and how he did it, and how what was it like to make it at HBO. And turned out he was a big fan of The Last of Us. So then we started chatting about The Last of Us, and in the conversation, I just saw the love he had for the material in a way that I've never felt with another person outside of Naughty Dog.
You see, you should have called me back, is the point.
I know.
Should have called me back.
I'm terrible.
No, but it was.
But at least I showed up to this panel on time.
Yeah. Pedro's going to pull the fire alarm again if we don't.
So then I asked Craig, just as a hypothetical, if we wanted to make this as an HBO show, what would that look like? How could we get that done? And he was like, oh, it's very simple. We go across the street and we meet with the heads of HBO, and I tell them I wanted that to be my next show, and we get it done. And was it a week, 2 weeks later? That's practically what happened. But right before that, we met, we had lunch with Carolyn, and we talked about it, and she bought into the show. And she did this thing that now everybody does, that you did to me earlier today, which is like, I'm not a gamer, don't be offended. I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to be a gamer to enjoy this story.
And that is so true.
Carolyn, as you were into the project, was there ever a moment where you guys were all together, you maybe started wringing your hands over the idea that we were just coming off of this really depressing pandemic? And did you kind of wonder, is this the right subject matter to deliver folks?
We were already in too deep by then. We just had to keep going.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, we'd already started, prior to the pandemic. So I guess it was an unhappy accident.
I mean, we also, honestly, the show has a lot of depressing things in it.
Yeah.
To be fair, not just a pandemic.
Yeah.
It's got something for everyone, really.
It does.
So our feeling was, what's one more horrible thing?
But is it more depressing than Chernobyl? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
It's
So
real.
we were on the upswing.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been getting less depressing as we
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
Pedro, internet
What?
zaddy.
Internet zaddy. That's
well,
how we're going to start.
You missed it. I did this whole thing about you being an internet zaddy because of the way you look. And then you walked out in that outfit. So, so awesome. You were so knee-deep in this big hit with The Mandalorian. How did you get into this, and how are you able to do it all, brother?
Right. This was something that kind of intercepted plans for me in that I got a call and they said, some guy named Craig Mazin wants you to read these scripts. And I knew who he was. I knew Chernobyl. I read the first script. I was hoping they were telling the truth in that he wanted to talk with me. We spoke that day. And then all four, Craig, Neil, Carolyn, and I got on a Zoom call. I was in London at the time. And this all happened within a 24-hour period. They're out of their minds. They cast that quickly. I don't know who they think they are. But it was a very unique experience for me, and one that intercepted. I was like 5 minutes away from saying yes to a job that would have determined the next couple of years for me. And in fact, if it hadn't have been Craig, I would have refused to even entertain the thought of changing course simply because I didn't have the energy psychologically to. But it was Craig. And I read the script, and then I met him, and within 24 hours, everything changed. And then I found out what The Last of Us was, and very, very quickly, my nephews let me know, and then the world let me know.
Craig,
What's
what
up,
did
dude?
you say? What did you say to take it over the top?
That's the thing. I didn't have to. I mean, a lot of times when you go through these processes, you will send a script to somebody who is very much in demand, the way Pedro was, and their agent will say, "Oh my God, you can't wait to read it. You can't wait." And then a year goes by, and you just don't know. And in this time, we thought that he was unavailable, and then we got a call like, "Well, maybe he's not." So we were like, "Yes, I mean, yeah." So we sent the script off, and then, like, right away, and I knew that he was in London, and it was just like right away, yes, let's get on a Zoom, let's talk. And so we got on a Zoom together, and it was, love at first sight, and kind of just, he gets in your heart. Oh, God, he gets in there. It's really annoying. And he doesn't leave. He stays. He stays with you. And we just it was like a thing. It was one of those weird things where even through Zoom, somehow you could feel it. And when it's right, it's right. That's why it didn't take us any time at all. When it's right. That's the thing. Neil and I sat down, it was right. And then we met him, it was right. We saw these guys and their auditions, and we were like, done. That's it. We don't dither. When it's right, it's right. I mean, part of the job is knowing when it's right.
Bella, wonderful Bella. Before we get into this, wonderful, perfect Bella. Bella, what was your life like after Game of Thrones? I mean, could you get a restaurant table anywhere? I mean, what was it like?
After Game of Thrones?
Yes.
It was very much the same, other than that I got recognized every so often. Kind of a lot when it first came out, but then like died off as I looked a bit older, although arguably I still look basically the same. But it wasn't, I mean, I was introduced to the film. I guess my life did change because I was introduced to the film and TV world. I have no parents in the industry. I had no links to it whatsoever, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And now, I never want to leave. So I guess that is what changed.
So you and Pedro had to get close quick. Can you tell me what was your first impression of Pedro?
Well, I first was introduced to Pedro on a HR Zoom before we...
It wasn't a Zoom that you had asked for, just to be clear. It was the mandated one.
Yeah. And you were walking around your house with your phone, and the doorbell was ringing, and it was just chaos. And I was like, this is what the next year is going to be. And it was.
I remember now. That was completely, you see, we're framing it as if it's in character, but it was not in character. I'm not a late person. I'm not a late person.
No.
I don't sleep very well, and I slept in this morning and was super late to the HR Zoom call for the executives of HBO and the whole show and everything. It was very uncharacteristic of me. But yeah, now I remember, and I was and the battery was running out, and I didn't know the apartment that I was in, and I was looking around for a plug so that I could situate and listen to the very serious conversation.
Did you have to bond quick? Did you find ways to bond? Or was the story such that you obviously were kind of at bad ends at the beginning, so your relationship grew? What was it like working together at the very beginning?
I mean, I think that we didn't want the other to, I don't know, we're decent people, and so we wanted the other to feel comfortable, and I was hoping that they would like me, and I'm sure Bella was scared, and wanted me to like them back, and we started in a kind of place of generosity and kindness, although shy, and then we didn't have a fucking choice. We were with each other every single day.
I think you're right. We were very shy of each other, and Joel and Ellie were very reluctant of each other. So that sort of worked out well for us.
Yeah, it was scheduled. It was scheduled
planned
well for us.
Yeah,
because the more comfortable we got with one another, even though our first steps were completely kind and curious, but they didn't put any pressure on us to get to know each other in any certain way or insist on some kind of chemistry, which is what you're ultimately scared. This mysterious word, chemistry, when really it's just be generous with one another and listen to one another and care about one another and that was just sort of a human logic that we had, and we didn't really know if it would translate. I guess that would be the fear.
It was pretty amazing to watch the two of them take care of each other. And the process was such that we had such a long time of shooting. We had 200 shooting days, which is, yeah, thank you. Exactly.
118, I think.
Finally, somebody cares about me. And so they had all this time, and in a weird way, I kind of didn't want them to just be immediately in love with each other and laughing, because they needed to learn about each other in front of the camera, and they did. But I have to say that what I wasn't kind of expecting when we got to the end was how close we all were, how much it hurt. Like, you get to a place where it's love. You love people. And the two of them loved each other. And what you see on screen, particularly as you get to the end of the series, is real. That's not chemistry, that's real. And that was just incredible for me to watch. It was beautiful.
Mr. Luna.
That's true. It's true.
It's true.
It's true. Thank you for that polite clap. I appreciate that.
Right.
After I opened my heart to you all. Now that was correct.
That was nice.
Thank you.
Gabriel, they just watched the first 80 minutes, which pretty much go from 0 to 60 very quickly. You were obviously there. It seems like everything happened at night. Can you recall that shoot? And was that the very first thing that you worked on?
It was mostly night shoots. It was about a month of night shoots, but it was Alberta summertime nights, which is like 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of just hanging out before work, and then sun's going down. Let's get to it, and then we were just on a rail with Ksenia here, our wonderful DP.
Take a bow.
Yeah.
Great Ksenia Serreta.
We were off and running every night, so we were pretty much up against it, and I mean, it was so tight, the script so tight, the story. I mean, I was very familiar with the story, having played it, and was experiencing this weird deja vu, surreal. I've been immersed again into the game, but this time I can touch everything and feel it all, and it's all real. So, but yeah, it was a lot of weird nights.
So you guys have been faithful, obviously, to the game, but then we got to episode 3, and then there was this pivot. Can you talk about why you made that pivot?
Well, it was something that Neil and I talked about as we were going through. Before we wrote any scripts, we just broke the whole story of the game apart into episodes and talked about how we wanted to adapt it. And one of the things that's amazing about Neil, and I think this makes him unique among people that create source material, is he understands that adaptation is not just something you do just 'cause. It's essential, but the adaptation in the correct way is important. And so there are times where you want to just kind of go in a different way. And one of the things that Neil would say all the time is that there was this very freeing aspect of storytelling in this medium because we could shift perspective. In the game, you're stuck. You are Joel. Or later on in the game, you're Ellie, but you're either one, and you're never anybody else. So to that extent, Bill had to be somebody that you meet as Joel, and you experience as Joel, and who serves the story of Joel and Ellie. We didn't have that. And we had an interest in showing how time had passed from the beginning of the outbreak to where we were in the show. But I didn't really want to just do some random kind of, here's the way the world went. I always like to look inside of relationships. And there was an opportunity to take a kernel of a story that was in the game and just expand it and turn it on its ear and make it the centerpiece that is sort of like the donut hole. And then you have the story of Joel and Ellie here. Then there's this, we go away from them. We tell this other story. And then when we come back to Joel and Ellie, we can see how that story has fed into Joel and the way he thinks about Ellie and when he chooses to do next. And it was just a wonderful time making that episode.
We have a clip from episode 3. Do you guys know what episode we're talking about? Murray Bartlett. Craig, he's so wonderful. How was he like to work
He's
with?
actually not. He's a dick. And he's not a good actor. We had to rely on Nick Offerman to basically sell this entire thing. So we leaned on Nick for...
Hey, 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 hey.
I've been set up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Look, see, he's not dying. He's fine.
Hello.
Murray Bartlett. Murray, you missed the quiz earlier, so let me start with, did you know of the Last of Us video game before this started? And how did they come about casting you? Tell us your origin story.
Okay. I am not a gamer, I'm embarrassed to say. I wish I'd played the game.
No offense.
There it is.
I'm sorry. But I have friends who are gamers who loved the game. So I'd heard of it, and then when the audition came up, my friends were super excited because people who love the game. And then I got the sides, the script pages for the audition, and just was blown away. I don't think at that point I had the full script, but I had these 3 scenes, I think, that were pieces from different parts of the episode, and already I could see this incredible relationship, these sort of vignettes of this relationship that said so much of the relationship that passed through time, and I was blown away by it. So I was like, I want this job. Also because I was a huge fan of Chernobyl, which I think is, one of the best pieces of television. So I was super excited to be part of this game that people loved so deeply, and to work with this man who'd created Chernobyl, who I loved so deeply from afar. And then, I just auditioned. And
He doesn't do that anymore, just so you know. That shit's over.
That's not quite true.
Yeah, well, he's got an Emmy.
I just hoped and prayed that they would let me be part of it.
Carolyn, can you talk here about why Murray, why Nick Offerman, why they were the 2 most perfect guys?
Well, I think there's something, first of all, when we were, when we do these auditions, you see like reams of, it used to be in person, but tapes, people, and then all of a sudden, boom, this one stood out. Murray it was like, that's the guy. I mean, it was just so plainly obvious that he embodied all the sort of openness and heart and just had a lilt to his performance that was so beautiful. And then Nick was somebody I think that we were all really big fans of, and seemed to really be, as I think we all felt, was a really interesting and surprising choice for this role. And they both did such a beautiful job and created such incredible chemistry on screen.
Murray, I mean, obviously we know Nick is a funny man. Between scenes, was he a funny man, or did he keep it straight? How was he? Did he keep it down low?
I mean, he's always funny, right? Like, he's just always got a twinkle in his eye. That giggle that you hear in the show is a Nick Offerman giggle. Like, it's... Right. Yeah. Oh my God! Someone asked me to do it before, and I was like, I don't want to like ruin it. You just like nailed it. No, we had a lot of fun. Nick is such a good person, and just such a gentleman, like through and through. He's like an old school guy that just cares about all the things that you want someone to care about, and. It was a joy working with Nick, and very, very funny in between takes. Not like, he was doing a stand-up routine, but just that twinkle in the eye, like very dry sense of humor, which was a lovely sort of contrast to some of the scenes that we were doing.
Craig, where did the strawberries come from when they went and ate the strawberries?
Jeez, I don't know. Sometimes I think about these things and I'm like, if I think about it too much, then I'll ruin my own brain or something. I don't know where it comes from. I think that there was this theme that Frank was about life and about nurturing and tending and caring for things. He says it. Paying attention to things is how we show love. And so what would a gift be, you know, and the idea of gifting him something that seemed small and simple to us now, almost negligent, but to them then, and knowing that Bill was, you know, an Epicurean and would love something like that. I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it.
Stop it.
Okay.
This episode meant a lot to me. I mean, I read it on the way to Alberta on the plane, and I remember saying to you at one point during the shoot, I was like, it was episode 4 at the time. We ended up combining 1 and 2, but I was like, episode 4 might be the one we submit to the Emmys. Because I mean, I know none of the central characters are in it, but it was just so beautiful. And
They're in a lot of it.
You know, you guys are.
Always forget.
No, but
Shot close to half the days on the episode.
And so, you know, I'm reading it, and then when I watch it in person, there was. You know, they do the scene where, you know,
Walks in the sun and
you're a sophisticated guy who knows to pair the Beaujolais with the rabbit. And so my cousin Adrian, I'm gonna tell you a personal story. My cousin Adrian passed 2018. He and my other cousin Stephen always had a joke. There were in Sanford and Son, one time Fred Sanford is trying to take up some girls back to the house, and he promises some Beaujolais. So every time my cousins would be, you know, they'd be drinking, like, what you having? Oh, man, I'm having that Beaujolais, you know? And then, and I saw it in the episode, and I mean, I was already bawling my freaking eyes out because of what these guys are doing, but then this hits, and it just, like, hit me so hard. And but everything about it, it was so brilliantly wrought, and it was an opportunity for us to go into this little side chamber of the story that you don't see in the game, and it was handled in a really, really brilliant way. So thank you for you two for executing it. Thank you for Craig and everybody for writing it. It was a really beautiful episode. Pedro's in it. Pedro's in it a lot. Both he and Anna are heavily featured in the episode.
Pedro and I have been waiting to work together for so long, and we didn't get enough scenes, but at least we got to have a shot at
like
it.
one intersection. That's true. Like one day.
It wasn't
At a
enough,
lunch.
but it was something.
Yeah.
There was a moment there where I was wondering if you were going to have Pedro go into the bedroom and find them. Did you go back and
Ask
forth on that?
Yeah, people ask me, no, God, no, I would never. No, Neil and I, that never even occurred to us. That would just be horrible. Although now I realize then that we showed a lot of horrible things. So now I know why people would think that we would have, but it didn't occur to me at the time. We're very careful about the horrible things we show you.
Oh my God, the pool into the window is.
That was.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
And the song, honestly, that song just guts me every time I hear it. It's beautiful.
All right, so let's jump into the horrible things. The making of your undead. Now, obviously,
They are not undead.
Okay, what do
They
I
are
call
infected.
them? I'm so sorry. I didn't play the game either. What do we call them? How bad is that?
Infected.
Infected.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
They're infected.
So, what was it like figuring out exactly how your infected people look to make them stand out from every other subhuman, creepy zombie creature that we've seen on television?
Yeah, the great thing of being part of this show, as someone that worked on the video game, is how much love Craig and the cast, but especially the crew, they studied the game meticulously. And what we did on the game was, we knew we wanted to make, we're in the zombie genre, but we wanted to differentiate ourselves. And it started from watching Planet Earth and watching this cordyceps, this fungal infection that takes over insects. And it turns into this really beautiful thing. And we had this guy that works at Naughty Dog, Hyung Nam, who started designing our infected for us. And he did this kind of Photoshop bash where he took fungal growths and put it on this person. And then he kept iterating on it, and he designed what turned out to be the clicker, the stuff that you see in episode 2. And that became like the core look of the infected, and we developed it fully for the game. And one of the things that when we worked on the show, we're like, let's make it that. Like, there's no need to reinvent it. This is often the thing that happens in adaptation. Things get reinvented just for the sake of making it different. And there's certain things that needed to be changed, and certain things that Craig and I knew from the get-go, like the clickers, that need to be exactly like the game, or as close as we could come to it.
Yeah, and we had an amazing crew working on that. Barry Gower and his team out of the UK, who worked with us on Chernobyl and worked with Carolyn on Game of Thrones and created the White Walkers and all this amazing stuff. We went to Barry because we wanted as much as we could to be practical. We love to see things on the day there. It helps everybody. It helps these guys react better to the performances of the bad guys. And it also helps us understand a little bit. It just makes everything feel realer as you're shooting. And then we worked with our visual effects teams, who were led by Alex Wong, and a lot of creature work from Weta, to take the creatures that we had designed to be real and then scan them and then tweak and add and change. So what you see sometimes are purely prosthetic, sometimes it's entirely digital, and often it's a blend of the two. And when people ask, like, well, was it real? Was it this? It's yes is the answer. It's all of it, but all carefully mixed together. But we don't get there without the work that we did practically.
Bella and Pedro, what was it like working opposite these folks who were dressed up as infected? Did it help you sometime? Were there moments where you wanted to bust out laughing because it was so crazy? What was that like?
It was never funny.
Never.
It was sometimes it was sweet because they couldn't see. And you had to sort of gently take them by and they would gently take your hand and you could move them into their first position for the take.
That is pretty funny, though.
Yeah, I mean, that actually is funny.
It was
Funny afterwards.
It was funny, but it was disgusting and scary, and which is perfect because there isn't a lot, I think, with so much that we see, especially if it's genre related, it's all visual effects, and there's so much that you have to kind of create for yourself. And in this circumstance, there was little left to the imagination, as much as the detail work that was done in post, but still there was enough for us to really immerse you into the story.
Definitely, like in the museum when we're like on the ground with the clicker on top of us, like it was terrifying.
Yeah.
We had a terrible time.
Yeah.
I met that guy at the Alberta screening, and he's a really tall guy.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
So talented. They're so like their movements and they put 100% effort into every single take. Like even in the rehearsals, there was no like. They must have been exhausted. Like all the infected and the clickers are on energy drinks all the time. Like they were putting just so much into it and were so invested and so passionate.
That was after like whatever 6 hours in the chair just to get made up. I mean, it's a brutal job, but yeah, I mean, it's Sam, the guy who's one of those clickers, he's just a fan of the game. I mean, he's a dancer, I think, by training, but had always loved the game and would do his clicker impression for friends as a goof, and then sent us a tape, and we were like, then this guy's a clicker. It's amazing. It's an actual clicker, and that was something to see come to life.
Did you guys have to really edit yourself in terms of how many times we would see the infected? Because obviously there's a lot of questions about why aren't they in every episode? Why aren't they out here?
Yeah, there were a few
Why
of
do you
those.
hate the infected?
Yeah, why do I hate the infected so much? We did edit ourselves. Part of it was knowing that too much of a good thing is bad, and it is better to leave them wanting more. This is the thing about creatures and monsters. It's you should want more of them. If you get enough of them, it's too much, as far as I'm concerned. It should always be lingering as this threat. If you keep seeing them, then it's like, oh, it's the time for here come the clickers. And we don't want that. But that said, we were also learning. It was our first season. For instance, Game of Thrones, when you look at the White Walkers and the Whites in the first season of Game of Thrones, and then you compare them to where they were by the time you get to Hardhome, it's like night and day. So part of it is learning. Part of it's budget, right? And not to say that, I mean, HBO gave us a tremendous amount of resources. But a lot of the resources that we were spending were on also building environments, making Boston look all blown up and, shot to hell, and creating a quarantine zone and all these. Also, because the nature of the story that Neil told in the game was progressive, you go from Boston to Wyoming, we would just build these massive places and then leave. you're not supposed to do that. That's terrible producing.
It's something that you would see for the entire season of a show. And I remember seeing The Quarantine and was like, these are 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and then
what is happening?
why? Yeah.
And in the first episode, it was part of 2 episodes.
Right. Exactly.
And then the day of the infection, that was a real town.
Yeah.
That with all of the extras, did we already talk about this? Was I late?
No. I mean, yes, you were, but no, we didn't.
It was a real town when we're in the truck and we actually got to drive through. This was an existing town that we took over and filled with extras and locals.
Well, it was real, and to the point you go and touch the building, and literally every facade on the street has been replaced with a foam facade to make it look like Buda, Texas, or whatever it is outside
right?
Boston. Every building I touched was foam.
Really?
When I got up to the front of it.
Oh.
I mean, it's a real town. It's there.
It's a building touch.
Buildings were not foam.
The buildings are real buildings.
They
but
were
the
real
front of
buildings,
them-
but we did put things in front of them. Yes.
At one point, I was going by a movie theater and I was like, dude, these movies are from
Yeah, we
No,
were
because
really
you guys nailed
careful.
that architecture. It could be Kyle, Texas. It could be beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm familiar with the area, and it's just like,
Well,
and I was like, this is crazy. I mean, we're in Alberta. It looks just
That-
like it.
well,
And I went and you
Alberta-
touched it, and it was foam.
They call Alberta the Texas of Canada. I mean, it is. It's sort of the middle of the country, and
There are cowboys.
there are cowboys and there's oil.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar.
It was definitely foam when we recreated that entire thing.
Yes.
In Olds, a
Yes.
town 90 minutes north of
Yes.
Calgary, when we had shot
We
originally
did
2
use
hours
a little bit
south.
of foam. I'm not saying there was no foam used. There was foam.
Have to convince
I
them it
didn't
was
see any
foam.
foam.
Right? They
Yeah.
must know there was.
No, we would never, Murray, we wouldn't put you near foam. Don't worry about it. Not you.
Thank you, Craig.
You're
It's in
too
my
good for
contract. I
foam.
think.
Are you kidding me?
All right, before we go, I have to try to get anything out of you from season 2. Can you say when you expect to start production?
We are months, not years away from starting.
There you go.
Can you say, will you start days after we last left them? Months? Can you talk about the time frame?
It's a good question.
We could, but we're not gonna. Only because it's fun to keep sort of the mystery. It's fun to wonder. I will say that our process of adaptation is going to be and has been so far exactly the same. So that means we are going to certainly be drawing very heavily from the source material. And people can draw the conclusions that they would like.
Ladies and gentlemen, The Last of Us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.